Okay, so I feel compelled to share this story with you. Story time. Um, okay, let's Tarantino it real quick. People will gaslight you out of your own gifts, blessings, promise, all of the things, right? Now, let's get back to the story. So here's the thing, right? Oh, big old glare. I can recall telling someone a story from my past, and this was a very key person in my life at the time that I was telling this story to. I'm gonna tell you the story. Don't worry. Um, I told them. I said, I remember when I was younger how someone was telling me, a friend of mine was telling me and some other friends a situation that she was having, that they were having, and they said this person always calls me at like 3 in the morning and beyond and wants to like, link up or whatever. And I was like, mm-hmm. Right, right. And so I'm processing what they're saying. And then they ask, like, well, what do you think? And I was like, they're just not into you. You remember when that book came out, Sex and the City and all the things? Yeah, I was on that. I didn't read the book, but I knew the title and it applied, right? I was like, they're just not that into you. Like if they don't want to be seen with you during the day, if they're only calling you at these bewitching hours and expecting you to come to them and don't want to show you out in public and all these types of things, then they're just not that into you. And I mean, if you're okay with that, then cool, Bob's your uncle, right? But if you're not okay with it, then maybe you need to step away. Maybe you need to like set some boundaries. Maybe you need to say something, right? Person didn't receive it very well, let me tell you. Everybody else is like, no, that's not true. They like you. They just don't know how to handle you. And I was like, okay. I read the room and I was like, oh, they're not ready for this conversation. Like they wanted me to read from the script. They didn't want me to tell them what I actually received from it. Got it. Noted, taken. So anyway, while I was conveying the story to this third party and you know, the past and the future. See, time isn't real. It doesn't really even matter. But anyway, I was telling somebody else about the story, and they were like, "See, that might be the problem, because you have a tendency of telling people things, and it's not necessarily the truth, but it's your truth." And I was like, "Hmm, that might be true, right? That might be facts." But I felt in that situation and circumstance, I was just speaking the truth. I was using my deductive reasoning skills based off of the evidence that was being presented before me. And I was making a sound judgment, I guess, based off of what they had asked for me, right? It's like being called to jury duty. And then when you give your response or the results at the end, they're like, why would you do that? You're like, because you called me to jury duty and I was listening to everybody's talking. And then I made a sound decision based off of the evidence that was presented. What else was I supposed to do, right? Now, I started this off by saying people will gaslight you out of your own gifts. Now, in that situation and scenario, when I was telling this other third far removed party about the situation, and they were like, "You give your truth, not the truth," I really absorbed that into myself, and I was like, "Huh, maybe I just don't need to tell people what I receive anymore. Maybe I just need to hold that back." And that's exactly what I did to a certain extent, right? However, the reason why I feel like God put that back on my heart and brought that notion to fruition and just right to the forefront of my mind is not because I think about this all the time. I definitely don't, not at all. But it's because sometimes people, with their best intentions, might have the tendency to gaslight you out of your own gifts and promise just based off of what they perceived. Now, maybe in their situation and circumstance, they're not giving the truth. Maybe they're giving a confirmation. Maybe they're giving a skewed version of the truth based off of who their audience is. So in this situation and scenario, it's me telling the truth of what I receive. It's not even necessarily me saying whatever I want to say. Because if I said what I wanted to say, I would just fluff everything and go along to get along because I don't want no trouble. Listen, I just want to be down, in the words of Brandy, right? But God made me otherwise. And in order to walk in my purpose, in my path, and all of the things, and be able to utilize my gifts, I had to get to the understanding. I had to get to the understanding in place where I know that not everyone is going to love or even accept the things that I share, even confirmation, even if they're the ones who asked for it. Because listen, just like when we say our prayers, we got to be careful what we ask for because you just might get it. Not necessarily in the form that we expect, but in the form that we need to receive. So maybe, just maybe, think about your gifts. Think about the conversations that you've had about them. Think about maybe the way that you've suggested going back to school or suggested starting to write a book or starting a podcast or taking care of kids or, I don't know, painting walls, whatever it is, cleaning a room, whatever that is, whatever God implanted within you, your purpose, that seed. Think about how people are responding to it. Or even more so, what I receive is think about the things that come just innately to you, the way that you like to plan things. Now, when I say that, it's because I love to plan things. Think about how people respond to that. Are they accepting of it? Or do they try to make little jabs and make fun of you for it? Think about it. because the enemy will often utilize people in order to deter you from your path and purpose. When in reality, if we're really focused and if we knock those scales off of our eyes, it helps direct us to actually where we're meant to be. So, you know what I always say? These are my moments, it's your life. You're strong, you're powerful. You get to decide. And that's it. Bye.